If you had to ask me, Little Bear, what one thing stands out from your Mediterranean cruise? I went to many different ports. We ended up in Israel, we left Rome, we were all over the Mediterranean. And of course, each port had its own city, and we went to various cities. And if you had to ask me one word that would describe our adventure, I would say ruins. Yes, ruins. Ruins, ruins, ruins were everywhere, and I think that's what shocked me. You see, here in America, the oldest thing we have is 200 to 300 years old. It's not very old. It goes back to the days of the Pilgrims in Jamestown. And even those places are deteriorated, fallen apart, and there's no structure left. It was made out of wood, it's gone. But there, things that are made out of marble, concrete, and various forms that are permanent are still there, but they are in ruins. And it's profound. I see so much ruins that it's a little overwhelming to me to see so much ruins. I'd like to take you on a little guided tour and show you some of the ruins that Marilyn and I saw on our tour. The Colosseum is the most viewed place in Rome. It's ancient, but it has a sordid history. Imagine a place that was used for the entertainment of people, showing gladiator fights, martyrdom, mayhem, murder. And it was built right on the city limits of the Palatine Hill. This was the place where the Romans lived. This was the Roman subdivision of that day. Hundreds of people walked those streets then as they do today. The difference is now they're seeing nothing but ruins. Everything the Romans built on, they built on a foundation that was other than Jesus Christ. And it came to ruins, failure, idolatry, pagan temples everywhere. And the irony of the whole thing is you'll notice that there was an arch. It's called the Arch of Triumph. There it is. And that arch is built in honor of Titus sacking Jerusalem and taking the Jews captive into all the world and making slaves of them in Rome. And they honored this man. He promised he'd take down every stone of the temple, which he did, fulfilling Jesus' prophecy. And here the irony of it is, all that is left in these ancient ruins are stones upon stones. God had the final say on what would remain in these ruins that were not built on Christ, but built on flesh and pagan gods. Pompeii is an amazing place to walk around. It is like a big deserted ghost town. Everywhere you look, there are ruins. But when you look at some of the frescoes that are here and there, they are so perverted, I can't even talk to you about them. I believe this town was a perverted town, given over to sexual perversion and idolatry of all kinds. No wonder God allowed a volcano in 79 AD to catch them off guard and destroy that civilization. Athens was where Paul spent much of his time trying to convert the people towards Jesus Christ, warning them of their paganism. This is what Paul saw. This is a before picture of what Athens may have looked like during the days of the Apostle Paul. And here it's turned to ruins. He warned them that if they continue to worship Aphrodite, this is the temple of Aphrodite, the Parthenon. Many Greek gods were all over the place, and now look at it today. It's turned into ruins. This temple, smaller in stature, was adorned with pagan deities all around the side that would honor their gods. Ephesus, what a story. Jesus even warned in the book of Revelation chapter 2 that if they would lose their first love, they would lose their life. This is the temple to Hadrian. And Hadrian, Roman emperor, was worshipped. And now look at the temple. It's nothing but ruins. In Ephesus, they turned from the warnings of John, Paul, the Mother Mary. They all lived there, and they remained pagan. The amphitheater was used to warn them. I believe Paul and John likely used that place. But today, look at Ephesus. It's in ruins. The ruins were everywhere, and the thought came to me how Jesus somewhat addressed that in a very unique way. You remember when he said to Bethsaida, Chorazin, and Capernaum, the very dwelling places of James, Peter, and the disciples, some of the fishermen that lived in these fishing villages on the north part of the Sea of Galilee. He said to them, woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! Woe to you, Capernaum! And the woe would be really interpreted like, sort of in our modern vernacular, ruins, ruins, ruins to you. And that's the results of those woes. Did you know when you go today to Bethsaida, Chorazin, and Capernaum, those former villages are nothing but balsamic rock strewn all over the place. All the buildings are completely in ruins. Why? Because Jesus did his mighty works there, the healing of the blind, the feeding of the multitudes, the walking on the water. He preached in the synagogues, and you know what they did? They ran him out of town. And so he said, you know, in the final judgment, Tyre and Sidon will have more excuse than you, because they didn't have a prophet and a preacher and the Son of Man here preaching to you like they would have had I been there. They would have repented long ago. And Sodom is going to rise up in judgment against you. And so the results of that woe are ruins. And it's a warning for us. Jesus is basically saying, what does it profit for you to gain the whole world and lose your soul and end up with your life in ruins? You think you've accomplished much, but you can't take it with you, and it ends up being ruins. So my challenge for all of us is that we should live our lives in such a way that in the end, and I'm thinking more of that now as I'm 71, that in the next 10 years it may be curtains for me. I may just live to be in my early 80s and it's over. And I have to say to myself, what did I do in the life that I lived? For those of you that are younger, this is a challenge. Maybe my grandchildren. And hopefully, if I've already gone, my great-grandchildren. So my challenge is that live your life in such a way that you have something to show that's redemptive, that others can build on. That you've started a foundation that is built on Christ and you move forward. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. You've done your life to the glory of God. You've lived what's called in the Bible, in Ephesians, a life that's redemptive. What are you doing to redeem the time? God wants us to build on the foundation of Jesus Christ. And when you do that, there'll be no ruins attached to your name. I leave you with this word to pause and ponder.